Thank you. But this is how you would assess change. When you use something, you want to find out what's before, what's after. So what will you know? Oh. This is one thing you have to look out for. People say, when they hold the frequency, or people say, I don't feel anything. Be aware of that. Lots of people will say that. You know something? When I hold them, I don't feel anything either. Some people say, oh, I feel tingling, and and this energy went up my arm, and this happened. It may happen and it may not happen. Does that mean nothing is happening? No, it absolutely means something is happening. And the way you would explain to the client or to yourself or to your family or friends or whatever is that it's not what they feel in their hands when they're holding it, but what is the issue they are addressing. So the change will come in the way they feel. So if you say, I'm upset about so-and-so, then you can say, if I'm on a measurement scale of 1 to 10, how upset are you? If 1 means being calm and 10 means being really super upset, you can say, am I on a 7 or an 8 or a 10? This is how you could assess it. And they say, okay, I'm on 8. So now then you use the SRTLFs and ask them to speak about the same topic or whatever, which is what we did when you did the exercise yesterday evening, and then ask the same question. Now, is your upset at 7 or 8, or where is it? Don't feed them. Don't say, is it at 1? So that they tell you what they think you want to hear. You want the truth, not what you think, not what they think you want to hear. So they will say, well, it's down to whatever, or it hasn't changed, or something. But that is what they're assessing, because the thing is, people don't connect holding 2 little pieces of glass in their heads. They don't think they're doing anything. So they're not making that connection. So they're saying, I don't feel anything, I don't feel anything. Do you understand the difference? It's a big difference. And that is how you would gauge whether they are being effective or not. That is one of the ways. So don't get surprised if they say, well, I don't feel anything. This is pretty standard stuff. Because we don't feel anything. These things are working at the subsensory level or the supersensory level, whichever level you care to think. But it's definitely not necessarily at the sensory level. So the sensory level kicks in later. We're working at field level. And how do we know they work? Because you saw the imaging. It's there. The provers are there. But they're not in front of your face. So this I don't feel anything, just watch out for this thing. And I'm going to show you another slide. This is very interesting. This is the base. This is one of our practitioners, a very darling practitioner from Germany called Judy. So Judy is very sensitive, super sensitive. And so her baseline is whatever it is. Then she holds the panic to calm frequency on her solar plex, which is very sensitive. Look what's happening to her. Is she coherent? And this is the exam interview frequency. They're all beautiful. As I said, I like pretty things.
Even more beautiful.
Yes, there's a long story. I won't go into the long story. But anyway, this was very interesting how this frequency came about. I have a client in Hong Kong who's a businessman who also understands subtle energy. He's a very interesting guy. And James, his name is James Wong. And James decided to come and visit me in London. So the crazy guy came for 3 days from Hong Kong to London to spend time with me. But I thought, when first he wrote to me, he said, I'm coming to London. Is it possible for me to see you? I said, yeah, if you're coming to London, you can see me. Great. And then I realized that he was coming to London only to see me. I said, are you crazy? Why are you coming? What do you want? He said, no, I've read your book, I've seen your videos, I've got your frequency, I want to meet you. I thought, oh, you're fine, come then. And we had a very sweet meeting for 3 days. Mayor was also there. And so he's a very nice, very intelligent, very switched on person. And he told me something very strange. He said, have you seen this movie? I said, he said, this movie grossed more than the Titanic in Hong Kong. I said, oh, what movie is that? He said, it's an Indian movie. I said, Indian movie? I don't watch Indian movies. He said, it's a movie called The Three Idiots. How about that? So I looked up YouTube, and there it was, the whole movie. So I sat and watched it, because James, you know. And it was a super movie. And it was about these three youngsters, college-age youngsters. And it brought home to me the pressure on the children about their exams and what happens to them. In India, in the East, in Korea, in Hong Kong, Singapore, Malaysia, that whole area, there is Japan, there is enormous academic pressure on the kids. And the kids fall down. And these are not kids. Some of them end up committing suicide. They can't remember what's, because there's so much panic with exams that they forget even what they know. And so after that movie, it kind of touched something in me. And I thought, he said, can you do something for these, So then we discussed it, and we said, can you do something? And I thought, yeah, we can. Because originally what we thought was we could use the panic to calm and the I am frequency. But for children to carry two frequencies, or even young adults to carry two frequencies, especially without, is not practical. So we combined the panic to calm and the I am frequency. And this is the exam interview frequency, which is a separate frequency and does different things. This is Harry. Let's hear Harry's story.
Okay. After a lot of traumatic stuff in his life, Harry has got quite severe learning difficulties. He's moved from school to school, and his whole school life has been a bit jumbled. And I was staying there not long.
How old is he?
I think I gave you the wrong age. I think he's 12. I put 10 in my case study, I'm afraid.
Yeah. And what is his reading age?
5 to 6.
Wow. You need to know that.
And obviously because of that, he's pretty embarrassed about his reading, but he obviously has to try and read at home, and my daughter listens to him, and he finds it all a struggle. So when I was staying there, I said, oh, I'll listen to Harry read, shall I? And Harry seemed to be pleased to do that. So when he came in, I could see how he was really struggling. He was trying to read well for me, because he was. And really every word was a struggle, and every word was, and it was slow. And I could really feel for him, but I could also see that he didn't understand at all the story he was reading. Anyway, I spoke to him quickly about what I call them, or my grandson calls them, the magic glass frequencies. So I asked him if he'd be interested in trying out a new magic glass, because I actually had the new frequencies with me to show my daughter. So he said, oh, I want to see it on the internet, I want to see it. So I showed the website and everything, but obviously this frequency wasn't on the website. But he looked up a bit about Thrity, and then he said, oh, I can't wait for all this, let's try it now. So I got it out, and he put it on, and then it was late and it was bedtime. So I said, how about when you go to bed, Harry, put it under your pillow, and then tomorrow morning we'll see how you feel, and maybe you'll read again tomorrow morning before I go. Down quite early the next morning, already wearing the frequency, because we thought he'd probably leave it under his pillow and blah, blah, blah. And then he said, I want to read. So it was too noisy, there was too many other things happening. So we sent him off on a bike ride, and then when he came back, he said it was all quiet. So I said, oh, now you can read. And he read 2 pages of exactly the same book, wearing the frequency, as a totally different child. I mean, he actually knew what the story was about. So he was more excited, if that's the word, about the story. He was in the story, he was wanting to read the next page, and in fact he was reading so quickly that he missed, the only mistake he made that morning was to miss a line, and then he realised he'd done it and went back. So he made no mistakes at all, and yeah, he's now wearing the frequency every time he reads, and
he doesn't want to give it up, because I said, please bring it back.
yes,
Because we want to reset the thing.
Yeah.
He refused to give it
so
back.
Thrity asked me, and so I went only last week, and he was supposed to be bringing it to give it to me back, and then he said, "Do you have to take it? It's my lifeline. It's my lifeline to stardom," is what he said.
Lifeline to stardom, hooray.
Yeah.
How about that?
And so then he said, because I asked him if it was okay, so then that's when I took that picture. Is it okay to have a picture? And then before this thing, I said, your picture might be on something. I'm not quite sure what's happening with your picture. Do you mind? Will it be on Facebook? Will I be famous? And now he's having a competition with his dad, because he said, I'm going to be cleverer than you when I grow up now, with my magic glass.
How about that? Thank you very much.
Wow.
Yeah. So this is not only for exams and interviews, but whenever you, as I said before, for the wellness frequency, when you do something, when we create something, we create it for a particular purpose, and then it has ripples out in different ways. So people, when you read the feedback from Lotta, you will see that it works for the exams and interviews beautifully, but it also works in other ways. Whenever you're going into a stressful situation, I was wearing it yesterday and today. So I'm not going for an exam, but this is an interview of sorts. So the first day I'm always a little more nervous when I'm doing a presentation. And this keeps you nice and chilled. So Michaela, you had an interesting experience with the exam and interview frequencies you gave to somebody. Is that correct?
Yeah, I gave the interview and exam frequency to my cousin, and she used it, and first she used it only on the day of an interview, and she felt calmer, and she felt like she didn't have to please the interviewer or to be liked by the interviewer. And when the second time she went for another interview, and she wore a couple of days before the interview as well as at the interview, and she said that she not only she didn't feel like she had to be liked by the interviewer, but also she felt that she wanted to be herself, and if that job was right for her, then it would go correctly.
Wow. That's wow stuff. Yeah. And how did the interview go?